Hello, everyone. I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I'm going to be breaking down our main card opener for UFC Perf. In this one, we have Tom Nolan versus Charlie Campbell. Nolan is 9-1 as a professional, 4-1 in his last five fights, while Campbell is 9-2 as a professional, 4-1 in his last five fights. And they're actually pretty similar in how their five fights have went. Their latest fight being a win, then they suffered a loss and now are riding a 3-fight win streak. For Campbell, it's a bit different. His last loss was his Contender Series loss to Chris Duncan, which at this point, no shame in, because Chris Duncan seems to be one of the best unranked lightweights right now. Riding a 3-fight win streak. One of those fights was his back to the regional scene. Then in September, excuse me, in 2023, he fought Alex Reyes and smoked him in a few minutes. And then his last fight was last April, where he won a decision against Trevor Peek. Has been pretty inactive since then. This will be over a year since he's competed. Now I know he was scheduled to face Marcinho Hufi last November, but he pulled out due to injury, and I suppose it was a serious injury to keep him on sidelines for as long as it has now. Meanwhile, Tom Nolan, currently in speaking, if we're talking on the UFC, he's 3-1. Now, one of those fights in his last five was his Contender Series win against Bogdangrad. Then he lost his debut to Nicholas Mota, but is now riding a 3-fight win streak, TKOing Victor Martinez, then two decisions against Alex Reyes and Vyacheslav Borishev. Looking at it, it's a battle of two pretty lanky strikers. I know Campbell's a little bit more of the well-rounded fighter. He has some wrestling to his game, where you saw with the Trevor Peek fight, but most of it, he's a striker. He uses his range very well. He does hit with some decent power to him. But Tom Nolan is kind of like that, but add a little extra to the physical attributes. As a 6'3" lightweight with a 73-inch reach, it's pretty remarkable he can make that weight, and he's pretty dangerous overall. He's got some really good knockouts in the regional scene, and his knockout over Victor Martinez was very slick with that knee to the body and finish it with a ground and pound. And since then, these last two decisions against Alex Reyes and Vyacheslav Borishev, I think they've shown that he's improved in terms of being defensively sound. I honestly think this loss to Nicholas Mota was pretty good for him in the long run. Now, him getting knocked out like how he did was pretty bad, and it shows it's probably going to be sooner rather than later that he might move up to welterweight. Like I said, 6'3" at lightweight is pretty crazy. That's like Ignacio Bahamendez and Jalen Turner tall. And you saw how drained those two can look like. But for Tom Nolan, he's shown to have, I suppose, not a glass chin because he survived some bad shots, but there's always going to be a worry with him and his durability, as Nicholas Mota knocked him out and Victor Martinez in their fight rocked him. Now that has not been the case for his last two fights. As I said, it seems he took that Nicholas Mota fight to heart and has seemingly fought better, more defensively. At least he's not there to be hit, and he's not using tall man defense where it's just like leaning back. He has shown to have improved his, not just his striking defense, but overall the technical aspect is how he approaches the game. You even saw in like the Borshev's life, he hit what was that? What was the kick called? Because he basically did a handstand kick. I think it's called the Hammer of Burma or something akin to that, where it's literally, like I said, a handstand with the kick. And even on the ground, when on his back, he's shown to fight pretty well. He does play the guard game sometimes. He will throw up to triangles, but with such a long reach, each and height, he's able to really lean into the elbows from bottom and hack up his opponents. You saw it with the Borshev fight specifically, where he was winning off his back while Borshev was on top. Now, looking at Campbell, though, he does, like I said, he has some pretty good pop to him. He's shown, like I said, probably the more well-rounded of the two. And mostly in the Trevor Peek fight, you saw that's where his wrestling really shined. But really, when the Alex Reyes fight, he showed better striking and just had better power. Granted, Alex Reyes was on a pretty long layoff before that fight, so there is that. And Trevor Peek is pretty fucking durable, so I was not surprised that Campbell couldn't finish him. Looking at who I think is really going to win this, I got to go with Tom Nolan. Two big reasons I have is one, while they're both pretty similar in terms of their overall build, I think Nolan is overall going to be better in terms of the range striking, and he's going to have a lot of tools at his disposal. And while he could get taken down in this fight, he's shown, like I said, to fight off his back pretty well. He's improving his takedown defense, and he has some offensive wrestling in his own right and submissions to attack with. Plus, I just like the activity. Now, of course, there's some fighters who can come back from a layoff and seem like very better or seem much better. We saw it with Usman, but ring rust is a real thing, and it's something always taken into account with a fighter who's had this long of a layoff over a year. And so I just think you saw it from his contender series fight to now. Nolan's clearly gotten better. There's always going to be concern with his chin, absolutely. And if Campbell can get the knockout, then it's an outcome that's very likely. I wouldn't say this fight's 50-50. I'd say it's more like 60-40. It's, do you trust that Tom Nolan has improved that much, or can you trust that Campbell can find the knockout blow? I think Nolan's improved enough for that. The odds for the fight, minus 160 for Nolan, plus 130 for Campbell. And I think I'm going to go with the decision here. I know there's a possibility that Tom Nolan can get the knockout. We saw Chris Duncan get it, but that was a few years ago now. And I think Campbell's proven to be pretty durable since then. It's just Chris Duncan is very good, and he's got some good power to him as well. So like I said, I think Tom Nolan is going to get the decision here, win and perf. And I just think he's going to be a lot more technical on the feet. He's shown to improve, and the activity he has, the active schedule. Like looking at his last fight, just looking at these last 4 fights in the UFC, he made his debut last January. Then he fought Martinez in May. Then he fought Alex Reyes in August. And then his most recent fight against Borshev, he fought in February. That's a pretty good level of activity to get better, and while at the same time not overexert yourself with like short notice fights and constantly fighting over and over and over again. So I just think the activity and the ability to improve skill sets has helped him tremendously. So I'm going to pick Tom Nolan, and I think he's going to get the decision here. But that being said, that's been my prediction for this fight. Next up, we'll have Junior Tafa versus Lewis Sutherland. But if you liked the video, comment and subscribe. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the fight. But that being said, I've been Bo from Brutal Commentary. I thank you all for listening. Take care.